Hello everyone, my name is Zurnita Lachazarova. I am Assistant Professor of English at Sofia University St. Clement Ohridsky, and I'm also a PhD student at Dublin City University. Today I'm going to present my paper. It's Urban and Rural Epiphanies, Reflective Aspects of Recapturing Nature Within a Rus in Urbe Setting. So these are the main points that I'm going to focus on. The first one is the country in the city. The second one is recapturing memory. Then fragmented urban perceptions, contemplation of the Grand Canal, and rainy town. The last two, contemplation of the Grand Canal, refers to Patrick Kavanagh. He is the Irish poet that I will consider today. And Rainy Town refers to Dimcho de Belyanov, who is the Bulgarian poet that I'm going to talk about today. So first, there's a bit here about Rus in Urbe term in relation to John Archer's considerations. So I'm going to read through this quotation. The period of most innovative experimentation with plans for the marriage of country and city spans more than a century and a quarter, from the early 18th to the mid-19th century. But the desire to overcome the divorce between country and city extends back much further, to classical times, in particular to Horace's use of the terms Rus and Urbs in his satires, epistles, and odes to express frustration with and ambivalence about the disparity between city and country life. Given a choice of environment, Horace apparently preferred the so-called retired existence, withdrawal into the country from society. But others, both in classical times and in succeeding generations, occasionally tried to obtain the best of both worlds. So what I'm focusing on today is exactly this synergy between the two worlds that is evident in some of the poems of Patrick Kavanagh and Dimcho de Belyanov. So this is Patrick Kavanagh looking at his favorite Grand Canal. This sculpture is very famous in Dublin, but also it represents this reconciliation between the country and the city, or a typical Rus in Urbe setting. So this is the first poem that I'm going to consider. It's one by Patrick Kavanagh, and it's called Lines Written on a Seat on the Grand Canal, Dublin. So I'm going to read the poem and then analyze bits of it in relation to my topic. Oh, commemorate me where there is water, canal water preferably, so stilly, greeny at the heart of summer. Brother, commemorate me thus beautifully, where by a loch Niagarously roars the falls for those who sit in the tremendous silence of mid-July. No one will speak in prose who finds his way to these Parnassian islands. A swan goes by head low. A swan goes by head low with many apologies. Fantastic light looks through the eyes of bridges. And look, a barge comes bringing from Athy and other far-flung towns' mythologies. Oh, commemorate me with no hero courageous, tomb just a canal bank seat for the passerby. So in this poem, this reconciliation or coexistence of the urban and the rural are evident. Kavanagh transforms his experience from his past, which is related to a great extent to living in the country. He transforms it and it sublimates into an urban experience with those rural nuances left from his past. So the next photo that you can see here is Dimchu de Belanov's house, and it's also a good example of a Rus in urbe setting, because it's in a picturesque town, but it's still a town, though having many natural aspects. So again, a combination of the two. And here is a poem by Dimchu de Belyanov. With unheard steps it leaves for its dark end. With unheard steps it leaves for its dark end the day that brought its parching thirst and swelter. And lowering heavens the desert night sheds its tears over the town fallen quiet. And in this night that's pledged to you, 'neath the rain's drowsy murmur and hiss, my grave's put to sleep, it's lit quite through by the memory of your first yes. So here again we can see this interaction between the image of the town and nature, which meets its attributes and the way they interact within this poetic setting. It's interesting that they're not opposing each other anymore, but they are they coexist in a sort of an organic whole. These two spaces complement each other. They create a world that's balanced rather than distorted. So in this case, it's also related to a personal experience, and it's another evidence that it creates a universe that's more benevolent rather than hostile towards the poetic speaker. So on the last slide here you can see my conclusions, and I relate it again to what I referred to at the beginning in terms of the definition of Rus in urbe. So the poetic speakers in the poems that I mentioned achieve their urban and rural epiphanies in a place that combines the two. So although they're dwellers of the town or the city, they experience a sort of a epiphany or revelation that is usually associated with a natural surrounding. In this way, as it was referred to in the first text I mentioned, they get the best of both worlds, and the opposites, which are usually defined as very different and at war with each other in the literature. Here they function together and they form this organic whole that I mentioned. So in this way, the city and the country coexist. The city and the country are transformed into spaces of creation and poetic recapturing of memory, so that the poetic experience is transformed and takes on a new lease of life, which is neither completely urban nor related to the countryside as a concept. So here on the next slide you can see my works cited. And thank you for your attention, and thank you to the organizers of the conference for accepting my proposal. And I will be very happy to discuss any questions that you might have in relation to my presentation. So thanks again for listening, and I welcome any questions or comments in relation to my presentation. Thank you.